Hello, welcome back to Xenonauts. Previously, we had a mission where we encountered wraiths for the first time, teleporting behind us, but we managed to take them down. Then a mission with enemies on a roof. That was a bit different, but it didn't really save them from being destroyed. We completed alien armor plating, an important research that now gives us a whole load of new techs to get into. And while we were doing that, we had a quick mission with Charlie 2, but otherwise we're just skipping time really, researching important things like new planes and new armor. So now we're going to continue stalling in order to get these planes and armor into production and into combat. So here we've got a whole load of UFOs all over the place, doing a bit of micro in order to try and get my attacking squadrons to hit the enemy groups from the side or from behind, just because it's really annoying to engage enemies from the front. So here we go, I've managed to get an engagement over the USA where we're coming up right behind an enemy landing ship, and now they're in big trouble. We can just do this trick. And for the most part, I'm just going to be doing this over and over again. I'm not really going to be showing it. So here's an example. We blow up landing ships and ignore the fighters. Landing ships on their own are no problem, obviously. And the enemy are coming at us with various cruisers, which are effectively the same thing and can be destroyed via the same tactic. So not an enormous amount happens. I'm going to skip over the rest of this wave, as I mentioned. I almost went on a mission on this wave with Charlie 2, but I arrived at the mission as night fell, and the mission would probably disappear by the time it was the next day, so we ignored that. Now though, we've got our first Marauder out of production. It's ready to go. It's a nice shiny red thing, looks pretty badass. Hopefully it will perform well, and hopefully we can get enough money to get more of them, because one won't be enough. After that, I completed production of the Shrike 1 dropship. So Charlie 1 will technically no longer be known as Charlie 1 because they're named after their ship. They are now Shrike 1, and they'll be able to have 10 members, making them a bit more powerful, so we'll need to outfit the squad ready for that. And I've also completed a lot of plasma weapons, so we can see here with Big Iron, for example, he's now about as good as he can get. He can't use the Predator armor because it's only for heavy weapons, I believe anyway, so there we go, Big Iron's maxed out, and much of Charlie 1 will now be in their maxed out state. Just need to finish off a few more members before they're as good as they're ever going to get. Now here's another set of UFOs. I was forced to not engage over China and Russia because the enemy's air superiority fighters were such a threat. Their heavy fighters are marauding around, and whenever they're near my groups I have to just fall back and try not to be flying, since we don't have anything that can take them down, with the exception of the Marauders, although we only have one of those and it's busy at the moment. Once I get a couple, I think I will be able to engage those wings of heavy fighters. Now here's a bit of a problematic situation. I thought I'd bother to send Charlie 1 on a mission down in South Africa in order to test out all of the new plasma weaponry I'd given them. But after I sent them flying, the fighters over from China came to investigate, and now it looks like the dropship is in trouble. In order to save the dropship, I need to engage the fighters with something right now, but the Marauder is currently being refueled and repaired from its previous mission, or rearmed I should say, not actually repaired. Now I could actually have just launched it at this point, because while it says it's rearming, it's only rearming its torpedoes, which it doesn't need against the fighters. It can just use its gun, its plasma cannon. That said, it doesn't matter ultimately, because even if I had launched it, it wouldn't have arrived at the enemy fighter group before the fighters arrived at Shrike 1. So here we've got a problem. Shrike 1's about to get shot down, and I was looking here thinking, is there some way to just land the craft and hide? Because that's what the aliens do sometimes when they're about to get shot down. But no, that's not an option. We can't just run for cover. We just take it. There's not even a little battle. It just says, you lose. The good news is that nobody dies as a result of this. We get a load of wounds onto some of the party members, but they're all still alive. Some of them weren't even wounded at all, so I guess it wasn't that big of a crash. Afterwards, the Corsair I had sent out caught up to the fighters, but there's no point doing anything there, we'll just send it back. So that means Charlie 1 is now all in a wounded condition, or Shrike 1 I should say. They've also all been unassigned from the squad, so I need to remake the squad. But overall, they'll be fine in the end. And I guess we've learned a lesson. Those fighters are fast, and they will bother jumping between theatres. By the time the next wave of UFOs has arrived, I've built a second Marauder at Concrete. I'm going to send it out for a bit of a test flight against some of the aliens' heavier craft. Here was a case where I accidentally engaged an enemy cruiser group from the front with foxtrots, and obviously that's not going to go very well, so we just immediately disengage, since after you disengage there seems to be some kind of amnesty period where the enemy won't attack you, so I can just hang around and then I'm behind the enemy since they've flown past me. I can re-engage. Before that re-engagement actually happened, the marauders caught up to their target, just a cruiser, and they can pretty safely go for an almost frontal attack. We're so fast that we can just blast the enemy instantly and get out of there. So there we go, then we did catch up with that same group from earlier but from behind, and now the fight's the absolute opposite of what it was before. The auto-resolve in these fights has a 0% probability of victory, but we're proving it wrong. I guess because the auto-resolve demands that you kill the fighters, but since the fighters are sort of killed by just killing the cruiser, it doesn't work like that in practice. So it feels pretty exploitative, but it also feels like it's supposed to work like this, so who knows. As you can see, I'm sending Charlie 2 on a mission now. I still want to train Charlie 2 a bit and give them something to do, so one of the craft downed near Hammerstickle is going to be our next target, while everything else just gets airstriked after they've been shot down. I chose this crash site in particular to attack because it has the blue guys, the Scythians from the start of the game. A nice easy opponent, and there's not very many of them. We started things off with a snipe, killing the first one we could see outside the chopper. There was another one very near to us, little did I know. There's one just behind that wall. He annihilates a civilian. Mr. Get's getting psyched out by a psychic attack there, but he is not sufficiently put off from going around and looking at this guy. One shot, one kill. It's so nice and easy to fight the enemies from the beginning of the game now because things just work as you want them to. You can just run up to them, shotgun them in the face, and there you have it. No messing about. So as you saw, we killed another enemy. That was it until we got to the UFO, just a scout UFO, but there are 5 right inside the door. It was the perfect time to throw a stun grenade, but I didn't have the time units to do it here. So instead we're going to go for the usual door strats. We'll see what we can do just shooting at enemies from far away. McScope back here has to move because those hay bales are in the way, but after that he's got line of sight on a few enemies. They are behind cover, so no guarantees of hitting, but we can still do some trick shots perhaps over the cover, and bang, there goes the first enemy. In the next turn we do the same thing, of course. This time though, there is an enemy sitting in the door, so I'm going to use a stun stick to get rid of him. It does give some reaction fire, hitting same boots as last guy's assault shield, our newly upgraded shield with double health, doing nowhere near enough damage to destroy it. Then in the next turn I think we've got friend fire blasting one enemy away. Jamobile's also in position to attack and he gets another kill. We're just tearing through these enemies. It's so good when you can kill them in one hit. There was just one more sitting at the back, and that was the end of that. Such an easy and fast mission, easy experience. You get just as much experience as you do for fighting hard enemies as you do for fighting easy ones, so it's great to just go on all the easy things. And it was just fun. That was easily the most fun mission in the game. It didn't last very long, but when things just work and go as you expect, it's nice, especially in a game like this. Now there was a landed UFO there in Africa that suddenly took off, so now I can go after it. And you might have noted, if you were looking very closely, its goal was construction. So while it was landed there, it actually constructed an alien base, as we'll see in a minute. If I'd had fuel and ammunition to attack it earlier on, or had prioritized attacking it, we may have been able to prevent the creation of that base, although at this stage in the story we actually need alien bases to try and force the enemy to spawn a praetor so we can do our objective. As for this squad, our torpedoes easily down the landing craft, and although we could just run away now, with the marauders we can take on the heavy fighters as well. We're easily maneuverable enough to just steer out of the enemy's cone, and they're turning much slower than us, so we can outmaneuver them and easily destroy them. Looks like these marauders are going to be the key to victory in the air. I hope at some point to get the enemy's heavy fighter squadrons that are providing so much cover for everything else to come near to concrete so I can hit them with the marauders, or failing that, build enough marauders for all of our bases to have them, and then the enemy will be in real trouble, but it's going to be a lot of time and money before at that position. we finish research on the electroshock grenade, an EMP weapon that promises to be good against robotic enemies, so the androns and those drone things, those heavy drones that are somewhat resistant to regular attacks, will hopefully now have a weakness in the form of these grenades. You may also note we're kind of running out of research to do. I think we've actually done a lot of the top level researches now, and it's just random things that I had left over to work on, so we're soon going to max that out, which will be nice, since if we can research everything, then we'll be able to save money on scientists. Here was another aerial battle that happened shortly after, and I'm just showing it because it's so juicy and good. The torpedoes annihilate the landing craft before they know what's happening, and the fighters don't even have a chance. 2 marauders is just way too much for any enemy squad. We annihilate them, not taking any damage. Lovely jubbly. In the east, we do need to have a bit more finesse. You can see I've got a couple of planes heading out towards China because there's an enemy wing coming in. That group is designated as a base attack group, so I think they're going to go and attack Hammersickle. What I'm trying to do is get my Foxtrots behind them so we can do that. Fly in from behind and quickly blow up the landing ship to foil their attack before their heavy fighters can defend. I'm not using the maximum time thing anyway, like I usually do, to just rush in and destroy the enemy, because anecdotally it seemed like the effect where your planes can't target the enemy happens much more often if you use that fast time thing. Maybe there aren't enough frames for the AI to work out it's meant to be turning or what have you. Long story short though, we destroyed them and a crash site was created. I'm going to leave the crash site there because I'm considering sending Charlie 2 to actually go and hit it. And the alien base that I mentioned has now been uncovered, so we'll need to take it down. Just over the base was a new type of alien craft, the Shrike cruiser. I thought it would be an upgraded cruiser, but actually it's an upgraded bomber. And most importantly, it's not destroyed by 4 torpedoes like most things are, so now these 2 marauders will have to sneak in and use their close range attack. Fortunately, that was easily enough to bring it down. The enemy's so slow there, we could just fly behind them whenever we need to. Because they're bomber type things, they don't create crash sites, you just get a little reward for killing them. After that, it's time to go and hit this base then and try our luck with the praetor spawning. I'm also sending Charlie 2 to go after the remains of the base attack force, just to give them something to do and continue their training. We reach the base with no issues, but unfortunately in this case there's no message claiming that a praetor is in the base, and I'll spoil you, there is no praetor in the base. I think it would pop up if there was a story objective to be done, so we've just got a straight up base mission for no particular benefit. I'm going to hang out in the spawn room to begin with to continue my theory that on a base attack mission the game always sends a few enemies to attack the spawn room right at the start. We can see there's actually an andron standing outside the door, so we're going to ambush it. In a sense, we wait, the andron opens the door, shoots a shield, luckily not doing any damage, and then gets annihilated by ray and prey. So that sort of worked. I would have hoped that our men would shoot before the enemy did, but just didn't work out that way. Another andron appeared in this other corridor, which doesn't have a door, so we can't do the door strats, but we could still hide behind cover and take long shots at the enemy. This andron's a bit confused and just stands there, so now we can continue firing. Slowscope Joe, transferred over from Charlie 3, takes the shot and immediately downs the andron with his new shiny plasma sniper rifle. Very nice. There's a Harridan that shows up outside the door on the right. Tried to throw a stun grenade at it, but it didn't go quite as far as I needed it to, so we just stunned the corridor. I thought maybe that's okay, we'll just end the turn, because if he wants to come and attack us, he now has to run through the stun gas. I think he actually did try, he walked into it, got stunned, and then stopped. So now he's stuck in an awkward position, and Slowscope Joe again has the ideal line of sight. He can just shoot over there, and bang, we down the enemy in one hit again. That one hit kill goodness is still going on by the looks of things, just need to use plasma weapons. Nothing else showed up for a bit, so I thought we'll check out these corridors, and it turns out there are 2 androns standing right there. Luckily I had enough time units to escape. I was a bit worried because the enemy might use reaction fire on me as I run away, but I think I went out of their line of sight instantly, so that was safe. We'll go back behind our door and wait for something to come over here, and eventually one of the enemies did come and stand just inside the door. I had to bait it out by running out of the door a load of times, but we aggroed them in the end. thought I'd give barely functional a chance to fire his shiny new plasma rifle. Doesn't do very much because the rifle things in this game are just terrible in every way. So now we'll show the rifle up by using the last generation shotgun at just about the same range as well to do more damage. Still haven't brought this guy down. Luckily he's not doing any reaction fire against us. In the end, just had to do this the easy way. We'll get Ray and Prey to blow the enemy away with the scatter laser, the real source of damage in the game. Anyway, after this, nothing really did come over to attack the spawn room, so I moved out into the next room and found that second Andron that we saw earlier. It walked over to take a look at us without firing, perfect. It was also the perfect chance to test out our new electroshock grenade. Fake Eyes Fritz has one, so I thought let's just throw it forwards and EMP this bot to avoid having to fight it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. All it does is a bit of stun damage, 12 stun damage, which isn't very much because, well, I didn't know it at the time, these Androns have hundreds of stun health. So what those grenades do, I'm not quite sure. They don't work as advertised, like many things in the game. However, our plasma shotgun downs the enemy instantly. That's more like it. We continued on into the corridor on the other side of that room, and while we were setting up to go around this corner, an Andron literally appears in front of us and just starts shooting. That's a bit dangerous. Now we're going to have to do the annoying act of trying to attack an enemy around a corner, so we can't use our heavy machine gun or sniper rifles without baiting the enemy in, which would risk us just getting shot or outflanked. That means only the tried and true strategy remains, shield and shotgun. In this case, the first volley isn't enough to kill, the second one is. There we have it. Now in this corridor you can see there are two doors to the right and left. The room on the right was a big room with nothing in it. The room on the left appeared to be a smaller room with nothing in it. I was looking around just to make sure there wasn't a door that went out the other side or something. It appeared not to be the case. And I happened to turn slightly and notice there's actually an Andron in there in the corner. Bad peripheral awareness from old Fake Eyes Fritz. So now we're going to set up to take on this guy. Since the room's only small, I decided to split the squad into two groups. One group went into the unoccupied room to set up near the next door I wanted to go through. The other group will keep watch on this room and try to engage the Andron. The Andron actually wasn't paying any attention to us, it was just walking up and down. We somehow hadn't aggroed it despite running into the room and out again with Fake Eyes. I'm looking here to get a run and gun opportunity with Betty Buckshot. The annoying barrier in the room means that I can get quite close to the enemy, but it's considered as being in cover because of the barrier, so we don't have good chance to hit. While I can just run around the barrier, then I'll be in a dangerous position, because if the first shot doesn't kill, I could take reaction fire and be annihilated and end up without many time units standing in front of an enemy, which is always a bad situation. Because of those considerations, in this case, I'm eventually going to chicken out on attacking with Betty Buckshot and actually run back outside the room. In a future turn, I've got a slightly safer way to attack. I could shoot with Hillary Highcow and I put some damage onto the Andron. I also used up its reaction fire because it shot and just hit the communication thing. With that done, I thought now it's probably safe to do this Betty Buckshot style. We'll run in and just down the thing in one hit. We'll get close enough to guarantee a hit, but it doesn't die after we shoot it, even with the damage from Hillary. So now I suddenly realised we're in trouble, because Betty just used all of her time units doing that. Shooting is very costly compared to moving. So we need someone else to put damage on this thing this turn, otherwise Betty is just going to get shot. Pumpy Parker doesn't have the time units to get into the effective range of his weapon, so he's not much use, or he's unlikely to be of use. I thought Slow Scope Joe might be more useful. However, I've made another mistake. I brought him over to the right side of the room, thinking that's where the clear line of sight is, but of course Betty is there, so the line of sight isn't actually clear. I just didn't take that into consideration. I'm more likely to hit her than I am to hit the Andron, so even taking a shot doesn't seem worth it. There was one last chance though. Fake Eyes can just charge in and slap the thing with his stick, because I thought maybe the enemy will just attack the last thing that attacked it. Perhaps that's how aggro works. The other guys are out of time units and can't do anything, so at this stage we can just pray. We hit that end turn button to see what happens. It just shoots Betty. She takes loads of damage. It shoots again, doing less damage, but taking her down. Another shot comes from somewhere in that corridor and just misses Haikal. So it looks like we're about to be attacked by something else. But Betty is down, easily the most legendary squad member, perhaps rivaled only by Big Iron. And now I'm wishing that Big Iron was here and I hadn't split the squad to watch the other direction. Enraged, Fake Eye starts attacking the Andron, and this is why I know these Androns have hundreds of stun health, because we did 200 damage right there, and it didn't appear to do anything, so they have more stun health than they have normal health, meaning those electroshock grenades are definitely useless, unless they just have an absolutely enormous damage spread, and we were really unlucky with our first attempt at using it. As for the Andron out in the corridor, Hilary Haikal was able to get to cover and shoot in the same turn, which is quite rare for a gunner, so that was nice. And indeed we took the enemy down. But at this stage I'm already pretty annoyed. Losing Betty is critical, a possible game-ruining loss. We do still have good operatives, but we'll never get an operative as good as Betty again at this late stage in the game. This is exactly the sort of reason I didn't want to bother going on missions at all, since it's better to just preserve our good team rather than risk losing them and not really achieve anything with these missions. Taking this base won't help us in any way, because bases aren't that important. Anyway, so Hilary Haikal has to fire at another Andron who came round the corner. There's also an Andron where the other team are stationed. I'm setting up for a door strat, needed to destroy some cover, so I took a pointless shot there with Ray and Pray to just get rid of a console or something so that we can now see the enemy properly. The guy in front of Hilary just takes a few steps and doesn't shoot. That was very kind of him. Now we can set up to fire back. I'm going to use slow scope shooting over a shield, and there we go. That's his third kill I think this mission. He is doing pretty well, his fourth actually. As for the guy over here, the door strat is now ready to go, and Ray and Pray puts the damage onto the Andron, not enough to kill it. We'll close the door, wait for it to come back. Took a couple of turns before it actually came back into our line of sight, and I've got the whole squad now ready to continue on through the base. And there we go, Ray and Pray picks up that last kill. We really should have just tactically nuked this base, is pretty much what I'm thinking at this stage, but I'm going to cynically and reluctantly continue on going through it for the capture. The next target was at the end of that corridor we were just shooting down. An annoying position because it's hard to hit him and there's not much cover immediately in front, so it's hard to set up for any long or short ranged attacks really. There was this room off to the left I could use, it was mercifully empty, so I started gradually moving a few squad members into that room. We need to hurry up because the Andron can actually fire at us even though we can't see it right now. It's kind of blind firing around the corner or something, and our guys haven't worked out that he's there yet. Soon I came up with a pretty good idea to deal with the situation. Big Iron whips out the rocket launcher. Regrettably, he fires it in slightly the wrong direction and it hits the wall too early, so we don't actually get a kill there. But I brought 2 rockets, so he can now hide in the corner and reload. By the time the fire had gone out, the blue Andron had walked away and a purple one was there instead. But fine, we'll shoot at this guy. This time the rocket's more on target and the enemy is annihilated, does loads of damage. The rocket attacks, always nice to see. Finally we move up through the door into the next room, still not seeing the blue Andron, and it turns out this is the command center, so that's a nice thing to find. Didn't see anything in most of the room, which meant the blue Andron could only be in the last corner in the fog of war, and there it was. Since it's on its own, I was confident enough to bring most of the squad into the room. It came over, walked around the corner, and just looked at us, probably ran out of time units to fire. Started firing with some of the minor party members who haven't done much so far, just so they'll get an accuracy level up. You have to shoot at least one thing in a mission to level up your accuracy, and shooting any more than that doesn't actually do anything as far as I can tell. So they've done their bit, with Useless just about avoiding some reaction fire, and Pumpy Parker eventually finishes the enemy off. There's the capture. We still haven't seen half of the base and there are 3 enemies out there to go and kill, so now it's time for the very long process of moving the squad around to go take those guys out. Mercifully we can skip that for the purposes of this video. Here's the first encounter, an Andron trapped in a corner who refused to come out into the corridor, so eventually went in for a double shield and shotgun strategy. making sure to keep our time unit reserve as high as possible to reduce the chance of reaction fire, and in this case, one hit with the laser shotgun and another with the plasma is enough to bring the enemy down. Next was a Harridan who was behind the door just to the left of where that Andron was. Since it was so close to the door, I could set up outside of its line of sight, then suddenly open the door, charge in and go for the slap attack. It did fire back against barrel scrape here, but it somehow missed at point blank range. I think the maximum chance to hit is 95%, so you can still miss things right in front of you. And we were lucky. He did have a shield, so he probably wouldn't have taken damage anyway. The final Harridan had its cover destroyed by one burst of scatter laser fire, another burst kills the Harridan itself, and that's the end of the mission. So it went smoothly at the end, but the loss of Betty Buckshot is just so annoying. We got loads of money for the mission, that's something, but does that make it worth it? Absolutely not. As I said, tactical nuking, probably a better choice. And maybe they could also just send me some money while they're arranging the nuking, the governments of the world that is. So now we have to deal with the post-Betty Buckshot world. Our squad's going to be all the weaker. We'll just have to continue on, no choice obviously. I'll continue stalling then and waiting for the golden mission that we actually need to progress the game in the next part.